In this episode of the Tech Jawn, Elon Musk's Optimus robots are not autonomous. 14 state attorneys general sue TikTok, and WordPress.org and WP Engine are tripping. We've got all this at a tech spotlight and more for you in episode 150 of the Tech Jawn. From Columbus, Ohio, I'm Robb Dunderwood.
And coming out of Philly is your girl, Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech, aka I am more and more less, if that's a sentence, on social media. Well, let me not say social media, on specific social media. I am running into a lull when it comes to social media. And as much as I complain about, specifically as it relates to social media with, black faces, black representation, it's like, all right, I'm doing all this complaining, but I ain't on no black on social media. So I've spent a concerted effort, less and less on Threads, less and less on Instagram. I stay on Facebook for the family and friends because the family loves to see the pictures. I try to add them to our family photo album. Nobody ever sees those, but I put them on Facebook. Oh, it's like, why did I go through the effort of making this family photo album so the pictures will automatically? Anyway, that's tangential. The point is, I am spending less time on traditional social media and spending more time on Black-owned social media, specifically Spill. They've done a good job of updating stuff to where it's looking like a nice place to be. Now, there's not a lot of content on there, so you can easily run into the end of the thread. You can do that pretty quick. So it's like, all right,
You've
well, let me.
reached the end of the feed.
Yep, I'm
Check
like, all
back
right.
tomorrow.
Yep. So I'm like, all right, I need to contribute. So before I was just like thumbing through. I was like, oh man, nothing going on. So I closed it. Now it's like, all right, Terrance, either part of the problem, part of the solution, or part of the problem. So it's like, all right, now I got to contribute. So I've been spending past week and a half, maybe 2 weeks of actually contributing more effort. So that's the kick I'm on as of late.
Look
Right.
at you. Fight the power. Fight the power.
trying,
I have
trying to,
I
man.
have a Spill account. I have not opened it since I created it. So maybe I will take this as inspiration to hop on there, hop back on fan base right quick just to see what's popping. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, it's dry over there. Well, let me not say that. It's not as jumping as a X, as an
I
Instagram,
mean,
TikTok, but at the same time, it's like, all right, I gotta make it hot.
All
So
right.
let
right.
me
Well,
make it hot
I
versus
just
just waiting on it to get hot and then jump and ship.
I just looked to see if they have an Android app. They do. It's in beta, according
Uh-huh.
to Google Gemini.
But
So
they've had an Android app for a minute though.
I
And
never look, so I
Yeah.
just
and
always
they've
check
been
to see if they have it.
they were doing that whole invite only thing at I think at the point when I was trying to get on. And I mean,
Yeah.
I imagine that is to create the velvet rope cachet, but also to control some of the onboarding so that they don't
Mm-hmm.
break, as
Mm-hmm.
people rush to try to be a part of it. But so that was like my initial, I was like, you know what, I ain't got time for all that. But then we kind of, I think I actually sent the developer a DM or whatever. I was like, come on, man, like, come on,
Open it up.
yeah. And they were like, yeah, you're good now, so
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I will I'm gonna go on after this and just see what's up.
Yeah, I might check it out. I have been spending more time in newsletters, particularly Substack newsletters, and I never thought that I would because I wasn't the biggest fan of Substack, thinking that it's going to become a walled garden. But a few people have changed my mind on it, and there's a lot of good content over there because one of the things I like about newsletters is that if I follow someone's newsletter, I'm going to get the stuff they put out. When it's social media, it's a crapshoot. I have no idea if I'm going to see stuff that people put out unless I'm specifically creating a search for them or something like that. So, I get where you are, and there's quite a bit of content from folks who look like us over on Substack and newsletters in general. So that's where I've been spending a fair amount of my time.
Can I shamelessly plug my new newsletter?
All right. All right.
I did. I started. It only comes out once a month, literally. I'm not trying to. I don't even have that much content to be putting out there like that. But I do want to just start working on that community building that everybody always talks about. That I have, sort of control and ownership over versus hoping that the algorithm does not screw me over for the 50th time or whatever. So head to my website, stephaniehumphrey.com, and just at the bottom of the page, there's a stay in touch sort of box there, contact form, and you'll be signed up for the newsletter to get, the latest updates from Tech Life stuff.
So since you're doing a plug, I'm going to do a plug for
Do
the
it.
after party. So
Oh, before that, I was gonna say we need to get Stephanie over on Discord, our Tech John community.
I know.
While you're
There's
playing,
something always like I always have a trouble like logging in. Like it's always
have
like
you tried
something
in the
going
last 2 or 3
on.
years?
I have, and it's like I reset my password, but it still don't recognize me, and just now I got a whole new account, and I don't know which account goes to here, and then I don't really I don't play around in Discord, so the threads and the multiple different areas always gets me kind of So I don't know, man. I'm gonna try though.
We're going to talk
I
about
definitely am
this
gonna try.
stuff in the after
I
party.
love
So
y'all.
the shameless plug is for the after party, and for those who are wondering, well, what's the after party? We do the Tech John, and then after we get done doing the Tech John, we hang out for another half hour or so with folks in our community and just talk about whatever. So whatever is going to be talking about Discord and newsletters and stuff like that. So if you'd like to partake in that, you can do so in one big way that helps the show out. If you head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon, you can become a patron, where we've got multiple tiers, any one of which gets you access to our live stream and after party, so you can come hang out with us after the show. So once again, if you're interested in doing that, head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. Anything you do goes a long way, and we really appreciate you. That being said, let's jump into some tech. Terrance, I saw you stick this in there. I was going to stick it in if you didn't stick it in, talking about the Optimus robots from Elon Musk. There was an event last week that I think the big thing at the event was to announce the new Cybercab, but some other news came out when they had these. From the looks of them, they look like iRobot to me. I like the movie iRobot with Will Smith. These things kind of look like those things, but was it all fake? Was these just remote controlled robots? Was these people doing this stuff, or are these things truly autonomous, or what's the deal with them?
well, word on the street is the robot specifically. So let me go back. The cab and the van and the robot, the Optimus robot, they're all pulled from iRobot. That van looks like that carrier van.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think about the movie where Will Smith gets trapped in that tunnel and all the robots are attacking his car. The car he's in resembles the cab. The van where all the robots jump out resembles the van, and then the Optimus robots reveal the Optimus similar to those. What was the name of the robot in the movie? What was his name?
Oh, the one he was cool with.
Yeah, I
I
can't.
don't
He had a
remember.
name.
Yeah, I
think of his
can't
name.
remember either.
Anyway,
He had dreams. That's what I remember about him.
Right.
yeah, right. So anyway, Musk announces the cab, and he also brings out the van where he has passengers on the van. He's it looks like they're indoors, but they created like a street or some sort of like neighborhood to where the cab and the van kind of pull up and then the people get out. And then he also shows the Optimus robots, and they all kind of walk out in single file line, and they're not being controlled by cables. They're just walking single file. They don't look clunky. They like walking smooth. Some of them stop. Some of the people who are the press or whomever was invited ask them questions, and they seem to interact. And then throughout the night, as you're reading the stories, reading the news clippings that come out, there was like I don't know what we'll call it, a party, but people are mulling around almost like a press release for an iPhone. People kind of gather around the phones, taking
Free
pictures, doing
drinks.
their little, whatever the case may be. But during these things, they had these Optimus robots at these different stations. A couple of them were interacting with the viewers. Some of
Well,
them
they
were
had a
playing
bartender.
games. And one of them was even bartending, right? So, you look at this, and with the announcement that Musk said, he did, is like, okay, it looks like the future is here. Well, no sooner than the event is over, the tech journalists write their stories. Come to find out, some of the motions or the actions that the robots were doing wasn't fully autonomous. We don't know where they people were or what was going on, but the from what I could gather from the stories that I read, the only part of the robots in that presentation that was fully autonomous was them walking single file to when Musk actually introduced them for the first part. So I don't know if anybody's seen the video. When he announces them, they kind of walk out single file. That is for the most part it. Any of the fan interaction, any of the bartending, any of the special little tricks that they were doing, it's rumored, or like for instance, The Verge says that some of that stuff was controlled remotely.
Were
And
they announced as being fully autonomous?
and that was the thing, Musk did a good job of not saying the word autonomous as it related to the robots. And
He sure
maybe
enough
even
let you
some of
assume
the,
it though.
yeah, absolutely.
Sure enough let you assume
Everything, the visuals gave you the impression that these robots, there was like 10 or 12, maybe like a dozen of them, were doing their own thing based on the interactions from the fans, the guests, based on whatever task they were supposed to do at that night, whatever the case may be. So again, I don't know if that was the reason why the stock price didn't jump when Musk normally comes out and says something and presents something or reveals something, the stock tends to go up. This time, people were like, we don't know. Again, we don't know if that was because they found out that this wasn't a fully autonomous event or not. But, it seems like the market kind of like, we need to see this a little
Well,
bit more
it
before
did
we give it
say
a.
one of the robots there told an attendee that today I am assisted by a human,
Okay.
adding that
So
it's
maybe
not
that's the.
adding that it's not fully autonomous, and it says the voice stumbled on the word autonomous. That's irony for you.
Right.
So yeah, it looks like, maybe they weren't intended for that, but
Mhm.
to Rob's point, no one was correcting anybody that thought that they may have been. Yeah, I mean, just y'all know how I feel about Elon
Yeah,
Musk, so
I think we all kind of do.
I
This
have
event was called the
nothing to
We
say
Robot
about
event.
this.
It was the We Robot event, but I think what people were really there for was to see that cyber cab. So the issue that Tesla is having is that Elon, admittedly so, is very optimistic. I mean, he would say overly optimistic on release dates for new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying that this device or this car, the cyber cab, no steering wheel, no pedals. You basically just get in it and tell it where to go. This thing is going to cost. It'll start under $30,000, and it's going to be ready in 2026. And people are just saying, nah, because in order for that thing to work, fully self-driving, FSD has to work, and FSD is significantly behind
What's the
competitors.
FSD?
Full self-driving.
Full self-driving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that different than just the word autonomous, or are they just using different acronyms?
Well, that's what Tesla's always called it. Full self-driving on
Okay.
Teslas. So that it's there, but it's just not as good as what some of the other robotaxis like Waymo and stuff like that. They are way ahead of where Tesla is. So I don't think the stock moved, or kind of maybe even went down a little bit, because you're announcing this and you're saying, in sometime in 2026, but it doesn't look like these things are anywhere close to being ready. And then that van, they didn't even make any attempt to tell you when they thought that was coming out. That is purely concept for that. So, so that's, more so than probably the robots. That's probably why, it went down a little bit. As much as we talk negatively, deservedly so, about Elon Musk, I do have to give it to SpaceX. These folks over at that company caught a rocket that came out of space.
We switching subject, or we still on the
I'm
whole?
I'm just saying,
Talking.
just talking.
Oh, general, got
So
it.
yeah,
got it.
I didn't put that in the rundown, but it's a story that I think this happened yesterday. They have this big giant rocket thing is 233 feet, long. It's a booster rocket. And their thing is sending rockets up and then having them come back down and land, but they haven't been able to do that with this one. It's really, really big. So they said, well, what if we caught it? So they literally built a tower bigger than the Statue of Liberty taller than the Statue of Liberty. And this thing came down, and as if you've ever seen the Tesla rockets land, it's doing its thing. The thrusters are moving, but it lands inside of this giant contraption that literally, with these big giant arms, catches it and allows it to land safely, or at least it never actually hit the ground. It just got caught by this thing. That is pretty impressive.
I'm not mad
Doubt
at
that
that.
he had anything to do with it, but that was pretty impressive.
I just, if we're taking quick tangents, I'm gonna do a quick tangent about self-driving vehicles in general. There was a story about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. There was a woman inside of a Waymo self-driving taxi, and two men blocked the taxi from moving until she agreed to give them her phone number. And so it's like there are way more issues around self-driving anything than just not hitting people on the road and this and that and the third. Like the taxi wasn't able to move because I guess the safety features wouldn't allow it, because there's somebody standing in front of the
And I'm pretty sure them
taxi.
dudes knew that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they and she had to end up calling 911 and pressing the button inside the taxi that there's a hazard outside or there's a problem or whatever. I don't know if the doors were able to, apparently the doors were able to stay locked, but you just go through all of those different scenarios and just is more of a reason why you won't catch me in one of them Johns no time soon, not by myself anyway, because she was in the cab by herself and got harassed anyway.
That's not
Crazy.
harassment. That's first-degree felony assault at that point. When you are holding someone against their
Detained.
will.
Against their will,
that's-
basically.
Yeah,
Right.
I hope that every single sensor in those Waymo vehicles caught what these dudes look like, and that's being sent to the authorities, and they can go and handle that, because that is nuts.
Insane.
That is nuts. That makes me say maybe they should put like a taser button in there, to where like you hit a button and it electrifies the car. Anybody
be
standing
able
with
to-
it.
Exactly.
You gonna create more problems and
Right,
solutions with that
Very
right.
chat.
facetious. This is not a real thing for those who are not looking at my face and seeing me
And
smiling.
it's
as I
crazy
say it.
because I don't know what would help. Maybe just tinting the windows potentially.
Maybe.
So you don't know that there's a woman in there alone or something to that effect. I don't know, because I think people would probably they would know that that's a self-driving car and still want to mess with it, or whatever. Humans are always
We the problem. We
the
are the
problem.
common
Yes.
denominator.
That is horrible.
Humans are always the problem when it comes to stuff like this. It's so awful.
The sad thing is that somebody's going to get shot over something like that.
Listen,
Someone's going to get shot. If you are holding me in a car that can't move and you are forcing me to try to do something, and I'm saying me pejoratively, I don't mean me personally, but I'm just saying somebody is going to be fired upon when something like that happens.
But
So,
even in that case, like with the lady, again, I want to believe that if I was just happening to mind my own business walking down the street, and I happen to see these two dudes causing a problem, and I, investigate, and I see that this lady clearly does not want these people to be here. It's like, where are all the people around to be like, hey man, this ain't cool. It's just like, are we
yes,
at that point
we are.
to where
Yes, we are. FYI, yes, we are. And
that
it's sad and it's
ain't no piece of tech
unfortunate.
ain't no piece of tech gonna be able to solve that. Ain't no piece of tech gonna be able to alleviate that, make it easier, make it smoother. We need to do a better job
truth.
before we can get to loop this all the way back, before we can feel comfortable with accepting technology that's supposed to truly think on its own and help us. We need to do a better job
Right.
as society.
We don't
And I don't know if
deserve
that's gonna happen.
robots yet. We don't
Right.
deserve robots yet, or
Right.
self-driving cars or anything else.
That
We
story
don't.
is
We don't know how to
horrible.
act. We don't know how to act.
Side note, right? Speaking of tangents, right? The movie with Denzel Washington, David Washington, ain't that his name?
Yes,
John David Washington.
John David Washington.
Washington, yeah.
The movie, the
Where
creator.
he's like I saw it. That was really good, actually.
But that is symbolic of what was going on. I ain't trying to give away the whole movie, but it was our fault. And it's like
It
the
was
robots
all
are just
our
minding
fault.
their own business, doing their own thing, and we mess up, and now everything's in turmoil with the
Listen,
robots, and we
it's
want to blame the robots, and they
always
just
human. Humanity.
It's always people. It's
The
always
end.
people.
Always.
So, y'all, I wanted to get into this next story. I really want to get your take on this stuff. This is it seems like it's
Hmm.
an area of your expertise. But 14 state attorneys general are suing TikTok for harming children's mental health. Internal TikTok communications showed a company unconcerned with the harms the app poses for American teenagers, despite its own research validating many child safety concerns. For those who don't know, they don't let children in China use the American version of TikTok. They have one that's way safer now. It's a totalitarian, communist regime. That's part of it. But the
Sure.
other part too is
Right.
that they know this stuff adversely affects teens, and they don't want that happening to their children over there. But they seem to be cool with it over here. So this came from these attorneys general 2-year investigation that concluded that TikTok was designed with the express intention of addicting young people to the app, with the multi-billion-dollar company deceiving the public about the risk. So it's like they knew it was doing this, they were deceiving us about it, and they designed it intentionally to do this thing. I don't know that you can make that case anymore. Well, they haven't made the case. That is the case they're trying to make, but they're saying very
Hmm.
clearly that no, ByteDance and TikTok is purposely doing these things that they know are adversely affecting children.
And so was Meta.
Yeah.
And so was and
X and
until they
Twitter.
got caught. Right. And they Instagram released all those new teen features about a month ago that aren't gonna do much. And I feel like this is just another ploy to make the case for getting rid of TikTok. I just don't think the government's gonna let that bone go. They got that their dog with a bone, and the whole China TikTok China. We got to get rid of it. Like, and I just think this is just trying to be more justification for that. Because again, we talk about these kind of stories all the time, and none of these platforms is immune or unique in these things. Now, the blatancy, if that's a word, of the way TikTok wrote it down and was like, especially when you dig into when it gets granular, like we don't want to promote unattractive people's content and different stuff like that. Like they literally said they don't, they're not. I don't know how you find that out, because I don't know where you write that down in your policies or briefs or memos or anything like that. But apparently, one of the things was like they're not promoting unattractive people's content, and da 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 da, and it just, I mean, like I said, and Saray's point, she said, to be fair, isn't all social media trying to be addictive? Yes, it is. That's the entire point. And I mean, I don't know. I don't have anything to say about this because it's very hypocritical to me. Like I said, I don't see any other platforms being harassed or harangued in the way that TikTok is being, and I think it's just a ploy. It's just a ploy to justify either getting them to sell, because I don't think the United States wants to ban TikTok. I just think that is just a overshot of what they really want to do, which is control it, own it. They want a U.S. company to be in charge of it and controlling it and owning it the same way Meta and everybody else is. I think they just
But
want
no real changes, no
no.
real
I
improvement, no
I
real,
I could
safeguards.
yeah no. I could guarantee you if we are able to get TikTok in the hands of a US based company, this whole conversation goes away. I guarantee you. I guarantee you.
But
This
the
whole
problems
conversation
don't.
goes. Yeah, no, the problems aren't ever going to go away because that's what the platforms are designed to do. But this whole conversation about TikTok, that problem goes away really quickly if we get this company in the hands of a US based entity.
Case in point, again, I'm not. Uh, I like to believe that I'm not tricked to the addictiveness, which I'd probably be lying to myself about being honest. But for example, I have a hard time on Threads because it's like my algorithm has completely shifted, and I am like one of the reasons why I've started to veer away from some of them. It's like I need to start brand new,
Palate cleanser.
brand new. And it's like, I there's no empirical data, no empirical research, but I've noticed that the algorithm for Threads specifically is just so, I just sit on something too long and it just rearranges my whole algorithm. And I'm wondering, you know, is the algorithm learning from us, or is the social media companies tricking us into believing this is what is popular, this is what people are watching, this is what people
I
are
think it's both.
engaging
Yeah,
on? Okay.
it's all of that.
I think it's both. I mean, they definitely want you to engage with stuff that is getting engagement. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like if it's something that a lot of people are like, oh shoot, and can't put the then they figure you will as well. But they also
Mhm.
want to serve you stuff that you like so that you stay on longer. So I think is it's both and as opposed
Okay.
to either or.
Yeah, because I wanted to believe, I want to believe that we have some sort of control.
We
It's like
don't. We don't. We like literally zero.
right,
I mean,
right.
like it's diabolical, really,
Mhm.
the level of psychological control they put into these platforms. It really,
Mhm.
really is. And it's hard enough for adults, but when you start talking about kids with
Yeah,
underdeveloped, frontal
impressionable.
cortexes and all that other stuff, like it's truly, truly diabolical. I would recommend just as a quick shout out, the social dilemma. I
Mhm.
think it's still on Netflix. This documentary that tells you how they do some of these things, and you're just like, damn, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I
Terrence,
have to watch that.
to what you're experiencing, everybody on Threads is experiencing. So much so
I
that
mean,
Adam Mosseri
dog.
came out either early last week or the week or late the week before, talking about like engagement bait. They understand that it is an issue and they're going to address it.
Hmm.
For those who aren't familiar with engagement bait, is these posts that literally you'll just say something so over the top that people have no choice. They are psychologically just, I'm going to
Hmm.
I gotta respond. I can't not say nothing. And that's how they get
And
you.
we
That's how they
and we
get you
fall for, and we
every
see it,
Every
single
time.
time.
and we be like, oh, is that how they're getting all this engagement?
Well,
Let me do it.
and that's the thing. And now it's an industry now, right? The whole rage bait, the whole clickbait, the whole like there are people who teach those strategies
Mm-hmm.
on how to
Mm.
do it. Here, I was watching TikTok the other day, and the guy had here are 10 hooks that will get people to stop and watch your video. You know what I mean? Like it's a whole industry. It's a
Yeah.
cottage
Mm,
industry
mm,
now,
mm.
and people know how to game the system, and that's what we get.
People are gaming the system, but
Mhm.
it's got to the point to where you can't even ask a question on a
Mm-mm,
social media platform without
mm-mm.
somebody thinking that you like do an engagement bait. It's like, hey, which outfit do you like the best? It's like, that's not engagement bait. I'm trying to make a choice before I
Right,
go to the club tonight. I'm just asking a question of my 611 friends. That's all I wanted, all I wanted
right.
to know. So, as compared to things that truly are engagement bait, so it is really interesting. Steph, to your point that this may be just another ploy to try to get TikTok banned. Maybe this has been they've been investigating this longer than the ban has been in place,
Hmm.
and it's not really addressing the things the ban addresses. The government is not concerned. Well, let me rephrase that. The government's major concern about TikTok is not whether or not it is adversely affecting your children. Because if that was
Right.
the case, they would do something
It's
about
true.
it.
It's true.
They
Well,
are concerned
would
about
they?
if they truly were concerned, they would do something about it. If the concern for them is that, do you have an adversary that has a platform that
Right.
is so heavily used that they can actually change sentiment of Americans from Beijing? That's why they're talking about banning. Not talking about. That's why they have passed a law that TikTok will be banned if these other things don't happen. So, like
Right.
I said, two things can be true, at the same time. This is not helping TikTok, and I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. TikTok did get his day in court. It did not go as expected. The judge really wasn't
Right.
trying to hear. Let's just say that the judge made it very clear that the arguments that TikTok was making were very, very weak. To go back, come back, do some homework, be better. I'm paraphrasing, but
Right.
that is literally what the judge is telling TikTok to do. Y'all can bring it better than this. Come back and make an actual argument, because they were. It's kind of like the government, the part, the government is kind of just saying, yeah, and this, they're just agreeing with the judge is saying. So either the judge is really not feeling TikTok, or TikTok didn't make a great case as to why this
Right.
law should not go into effect. And
Right.
I think it's going to be locked up in court for years. I think that
For a
by the
while.
time that they figure it
And
out, it'll be figured out.
and it's just, next week it'll be somebody else. It could, because it's just because TikTok is the most popular platform for young people right now. But this
Mhm.
stuff goes on Instagram. This stuff goes on
Snapchat.
on Snapchat. You know what I mean? On other platforms. It's just, when everybody migrates to something else, in 6 months or a year, or
That's where the
whenever,
eyeballs will be.
that's where the eyeballs will be. And it's just like, we need substantive um
Regulation.
regulation and guideline, period. You can't piecemeal this based on platform. It needs to be platform agnostic. It needs to be,
Mhm.
And we need to get to a space where we are truly doing some sort of age verification. That's the only thing that's going to work, is legitimate age verification, and parents
Mm-mm.
actually understanding what is happening, and setting some ground rules in your household with regard to digital usage. Kids are gonna be kids. They're gonna do everything they can to get around it, and all of that. But we got to do better as the adults in the room, to
The adults in the room on TikTok trying to get the
and-
followers.
right, and that,
I was just
and
about to
that's the
say the adults
problem.
is part of the
That's
problem.
and that's the problem.
And
It's
then
just,
and
yeah.
yes, you are absolutely right. A lot of this needs to be pushed back onto the parents, but the parents got issues too, because the parents want their children with phones, overwhelmingly want their children with phones while
Yeah.
they're in school. Because if there is an active shooter in the school, I want to be able to call my child and they hear the phone ring.
But you can call them on a flip phone,
Yeah.
the same way you can call them on a smartphone.
Yeah, so like schools are saying, but you do understand that when we take these phones away from them across the board,
They do
scores
better.
go up,
Everything.
attention, how did they say it? Scores go up across the board. Behavioral issues go down across the board.
Yeah.
And what is the one thing we did? We said that your children have to put their phones in, like when you know how when you go to the club to see a comedian, they
Those
make you
bags.
put them in those basically those Brinks bag, those big those canvas bags. And you gotta lock your phone up. When they're making children do that at school, the numbers just go up or down. If it's a good thing for the number to go up, they go up. If it's a good thing for the numbers to go down, they go down across the board. Study after study is showing this. Yet parents still don't want to do it.
I'm not, don't take this any kind of way, but maybe school shootings might go down if we have fewer smartphones in schools. Like a lot of that is born out of the bullying that happens via social media platforms. And maybe we might see a decrease in that as well. Like, I'm not a psychologist, I don't know, but I feel like all of those ills could be mitigated in some way by less technology use in schools. That's it.
You're probably right. So y'all, we're going to change gears a little bit, and I'm just going to ask you a few questions. I would imagine that both of you are familiar with WordPress, right? So for those who are not, WordPress is one of the most used platforms for websites in the world. Over 40% of all websites run on WordPress, which is
My website runs on WordPress.
as does ours. All of my websites. I don't think I have any websites that don't run on WordPress. They all are using it. But WordPress is what we call open source software. So I'll just give you the definition. Open source software is computer software that is released under a license in which the copyright holder grants users the rights to use, study, change, and distribute the software and its source code to anyone for any purpose. And when they say anyone for any purpose, they really mean that. So essentially, unlike Microsoft Word or unlike Internet Explorer, I'm going way back in the day, unlike those that are developed by Microsoft and they have a copyright and only Microsoft can do development on those platforms, they have created software open source to combat companies like Microsoft so that you ultimately can have software that has a community working on it. And the way that it is
That's important though. Community is working on it. So I'll let you continue.
Community can work on it. So when you think about WordPress, it is open source software, and there have been thousands of developers, probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of developers that have worked on that on that project, creating plugins, creating themes, all these kind of things. So it's very clear when you talk about how open source software is licensed, GPL license, you can take some open source software, package it up, and then sell it if you choose to do so. That is how the license is. But the community has generally been pretty good at that. We're going to use it, and we'll create some premium things on top of this, but we're going to contribute to the community to ultimately help make the software better. Well, there is a company called WP Engine, and what WP Engine has been doing for years is, allowing people to install WordPress on their servers. They basically are a web host, among other things. They do many other things at this point, but they're a managed web host to where they will install WordPress for you. They'll update your plugins. They'll do all these things for a fee, and it's completely fine because it is open source. And the creator, one of the creators of WordPress, his name is Matt Mullenweg. He just decided last month, well, I don't say just decided last month, but last month he decided to go scorched earth and said that WP Engine, a company that his company, WordPress.com, Automatic, he runs WordPress.org. So he's all in kind of, he's in everywhere possible. He is entangled into WordPress. He basically said to them that they were a cancer on the WordPress ecosystem because they've made hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and they're not doing anything from a development standpoint, which, if you go and you look at what a lot of people are saying, it's kind of true. As big as WP Engine is, they have not done a lot of things that didn't make them money as far as contributing back to the community. But when you look at the license, it doesn't say, well, you have to contribute back to the community. It just says that you can use this software to do whatever you want to do with it, as long as you're not violating the software license. So Matt Mullenweg decided that, I'm going to go scorched earth. So they have to respond. They basically do a cease and desist on him. He then does a cease and desist back on WP Engine, and then says, you know what, for your trouble, I'm banning you from WordPress. So he literally stopped this open source project from accessing the WordPress.org servers. You can no longer have their themes. They can no longer have their plugins. One of them is called Advanced Custom Forms, which is one of the biggest WordPress plugins out there. We're going to snatch that stuff down. So the reason this looks really, really bad is because not only is this dude the one who helped create WordPress, this open source thing, he also runs Automatic, a for-profit company that does the same things that WP Engine does. So they compete against each other. They've worked with each other in the past, but they compete against each other. He also runs WordPress.org, the open source foundation, for all this stuff. So the problem that a lot of people are saying is like, well, dude, you can't be the one person to just make determinations on how people use software as long as they're legally doing it, just because you don't like that they're not contributing back enough. And he's like, WordPress is mine. I do what I want to do with it. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what bruh said.
I mean,
I'm with him.
Listen,
I'm Team Mullenweg.
It gets even worse. So they basically, like I said, he banned them from being able to, be part of the project any longer. So so all their plugins, they had to scramble and say, come to our website. That's how you can update the plugins that we've actually put out. So they're banned. But then they said, you know what? This really, 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 really popular Advanced Custom Forms, it's got a bug in it. But they're not able to go fix the bug because he's locked them out. So he used some fine print that says that if a developer is not maintaining software and we find, issues with the code, that we can decide to go take that plugin over for the security and safety of the community. So Matt Mullenweg essentially created a situation to where these folks have a bug, they can't fix it, and he straight up jacked their.
This is sounding very Apple versus Epic Games, maybe a little bit.
The community, people have gone to factions, and like some folks are absolutely with Matt Mullenweg because it's like WP Engine. What does the WP stand for? You are dancing all over their copyright. Other people are saying it's like, yes, but in order to, and this is, I'm not a legal scholar or anything like that, but I've heard that in order to defend a trademark, I said copyright. I didn't mean copyright. I meant trademark. In order to defend a trademark, you have to actually defend a trademark. So the fact that you've been working with this company for 15 previous years and didn't have a problem with it, now when they decide not to give you 8% of their take, you have a problem with it and shut them down, because I forgot that part. He actually said, well, we'll let you stay, but we want 8% for trademark infringement. So this is all over the place. And I just want to tell that whole long story. I tried to make it as short as I can, because it is even longer. But the open source community is up in arms. They don't know what to do, because I've actually created plugins for WordPress. I've actually created many themes for WordPress. If WordPress comes to me and says, well, hey, Rob, we want 8% of what you get, and if not, we're going to just kick you out from a developer standpoint, that means that, okay, well, WordPress is no longer tenable for me to build a business on top of, even though it's open source, because this one person has all that power. I just don't know that I could ever go and do that again. So I just kind of, like I said, hopefully I explained that well enough. You guys can, give me your take on what do you think about this. But like I said, WordPress is, not 100% in the right, and WP Engine is not 100% in the right. But everybody that is hurting right now are all the developers who are just, I don't know what to do anymore. Can I continue to trust WordPress that they won't do this to me? Because this is like,
Nope.
this dude just
You
decided,
can't.
I don't like you. I want 8%, and if not, I'm kicking you out. And that's really
Well,
what it
see,
looks like.
I don't know. I think you oversimplifying the I want 8%. Again, WordPress is open source, provided that the community continues to develop and build the software. Mullenweg's argument is WP Engine ain't doing nearly as much as they should be doing to benefit the community. They have just grabbed the software, made sure they're compliant, and are making hundreds of millions of dollars. Again, that's all fair and good, but what's also fair and good, and for me to be like, nope, you can't do that no more. So it's like, all right, that's the whole problem, in my opinion. That's the whole problem with open software in the first place. It's like, it's open and free software. You are betrothed is not the right word. You're beholden to the community. And if you're not a part of the community, then there has to be some sort of, hey man,
Well, there has to be
come on, man.
a repercussion for not contributing. Yeah, if you're
Now,
not
dude is tripping and it's affecting everything else, and all these other small people are getting caught in the middle and everything else. But it's like, all right, you can't build an enterprise off of free stuff.
yeah,
Ain't that the term that, it's like, all right, if you're really trying to build an enterprise, then you need to make sure you're in control of every aspect so you can avoid stuff
this
like
very
this.
thing. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
who gets to determine? Well, let me start off by saying this: the GPL license does not say that you have to create a certain amount of software to support this, open source software. Doesn't say that. It just says that if you're going to have it open source, anybody can take your code, fork it, do whatever they want to do with it, package it up, change the name of it, and then sell it if that's what they choose to do. I'm paraphrasing a lot, but because the license is very long if you read through all the legalese. But
Sure.
Who gets to decide? I guess in this case, Matt Mullenweg, because he's one of the creators.
The
of
dude
WordPress.
who owns it,
right?
But
The person who owns the software.
You are not contributing enough. You've made so much money in the last 15 years. I've determined you have not contributed enough. Therefore, I'm going to lock you out of this going forward unless you give us 8% because you're using our trademark.
I'm not mad at that. Yeah, I'm not mad at that because
it sucks. I ain't saying I agree. Go ahead.
They still have access to the version of the software that they have, and they can choose to do whatever they want to do with that version. You just don't get access to the community anymore, and that's that. There's the risk benefit of using open source software. There's a benefit there that you're getting this this crowdsourced community based piece of code that you can use any way you see fit. However, there is still somebody in charge of that code, at the end of the day. So
here's where I have the problem. The person who's saying it's mine and I control it has a for-profit company that, like WP Engine, they compete. They, if you go to Automatic and you're using, like, WordPress.org is free. You install it on whatever server you want. WordPress.com is not free. You pay Matt Mullenweg's company in order to use that. He actually is saying, I don't agree with what you're doing in this open source project, and you haven't necessarily violated a rule for the license. That's what every legal person has come out and said. It doesn't look like they violated any rules for the license, but you just have somebody at the top that just is in their feelings about they don't want to, to do more development or whatever, or they don't want to give, in this case, 8%. So he's like, you're shunned. You can no longer, be here. And like I said, he took it a step further, because one of their licenses that they have on this plugin is, this plugin for ACF is the name of it. And, one of the licenses is that it is also open source. So they said that they took a fork, but they didn't fork it. They just jacked it, because if you go and you look at the plugin, it still has ACF even in the logo and branding and all that kind of stuff, which ultimately isn't illegal. It's still holding up under GPL. But that to me, that's just problematic. When you have somebody who helped create an open source project, created their own for-profit company on top of the open source project, but now is dictating to another for-profit company that has built stuff on top of the open source project. No, you can't be a part anymore unless you give my company 8% of your tech. That's problematic to me.
Two wrongs. It really is just two
It's very
wrongs
problematic.
at this point.
That's why I say they're both tripping. And at the top of the story, it's like they're both kind of tripping on this. But it is very concerning to me, because I don't know that this was the light that people thought about open source. And if Mullenweg gets it, let's just say if this goes all the way through court and they decide that he wins, I think more harm will be done to open source software projects than if he were to lose. Because as I said, as a developer, if you can just decide that you don't like me, you have a personal issue with me, or whatever the case is, and and my stuff can no longer be part of your community, that after I've done all this work, in your case, not enough work, but I have done work in this community, I don't know that I can use you anymore. So what that would make me want to do.
Why are you using it then?
Well, here's what I would do. I would take the code, completely fork it, and just build my own thing. You would have Squarespace.
Exactly.
You would have Robb Space.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
But isn't that the point? You know what I mean? Like the fact that you can do that is the point. So go do that. And at this point, that WP Engine, I'm sure, has enough developers, enough resources, enough capital, enough everything to go off, and enough customers to go off and do what they want to do. So, like, is it right? That's not for any of us to decide. I don't think. It sucks, but that's what they're gonna have to do. I think. When you using other people's stuff, you gotta play. You're at the mercy of that person.
Unfortunately,
it is what it is. It is what it is.
I do want to make this clarification, because I did say the name of an actual company in Squarespace. I don't want anybody to think that Squarespace has done what I just said. I'm saying I would create something like Robb Space, where I would just go get WordPress source code, completely fork it, do whatever I want, do all the management under myself. But once I do that, it's no longer open source. It's my thing. So that kind of kills open source. It just kills the sentiment behind getting all these developers to put their time and effort into creating the software that is for the community, for everybody to use, even if they're making a profit off of it.
Right. So what's going to happen when Matt Mullenweg decides he's going to, pull the rug out and cause all these problems? What people are going to do? They're going to be like, I ain't doing this no more. I'm going to Squarespace.
It's already started to happen.
It's easier. I just got to sign up. I can host my name. They've got all the stuff. Wix, all these other. There's going to be an influx of people.
Right.
To Wix and Squarespace, and then Matt Mullenweg's going to be like, all right, wait. It's that's the game.
Yeah,
that is the game. You either play the game or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's two wrongs. But I'm not mad at either one of them.
Yeah, this is where the developer in me that has contributed to open source projects is like, dude, what are you doing? It's like, do you realize that even if it's one of the things to where he might be right, but it's so wrong if he does this, you're going to wreck it for everybody else trying to create these open source projects. Because why would you trust anyone going forward?
I am a chop off your nose to spite your face, person. What you're not gonna do is
Burning it
play with
all
me.
down, right? You ain't gonna play
I
in
will
my
burn.
face.
I
You
will
ain't
burn
gonna
it
play in
down.
my face. That's right. You out here getting paid off of all of this. Like, it just, it's the right thing to do from a WP Engine perspective. Like,
Sure,
go
sure.
ahead and break them off a couple dollars. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it's very reminiscent to me of the Apple Epic Games thing. It's like, bro, you're on my phone. Like, this is my phone, not yours, my phone, and you need to play the game to, you know what I mean, have a presence here. Like, don't act like you ain't making billions of dollars. Like, we gonna up them fees. Like, we doing it.
Yeah, I won't be shocked if WP Engine, if they just fork WordPress to the point to where they're just, they may even change their name and call themselves something else, but they are just going to run their own thing. I'm thinking that's probably what's going to happen in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I kind of figured this was going to happen, man. WordPress is too popular for somebody to just be like, hey, and do the math. I don't know if Matt Mullenweg did the math. I don't know if WP Engine did the math, but somebody did the math. And eventually, open source, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know of one open source project as big as WordPress. You correct me if I'm wrong. Y'all, anybody correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know of any thing that has birthed out of an open source project is as popular as
Can you put
WordPress.
GitHub in there?
Well,
I don't know.
GitHub is just more of a repository to put code
Right.
into it.
But the code is open source, though,
so
right?
yeah, it's not bigger than WordPress. 40% of websites on Earth run WordPress. So from that standpoint, it's pretty darn big. You've got like Ruby on Rails is ginormous. I mean, there's other stuff that people use. So there may be other things that are open source that generate more money for the companies that use them than maybe what WordPress does. But then, if you think about everybody that is doing WordPress.org hosting and all those fees, I mean, everybody that has a website, they're all paying money. So I don't know the answer to that, but it sounds feasible. It sounds like it may be one of the biggest. And when you think about open source software in general, I want to say that it's like $8 trillion.
I
what
get
the
it.
software
Python, maybe is Python
Yeah.
open source?
I don't know that Python,
but
Ruby is, but I'm not sure. I'm not certain about Python. I'm not a Python developer.
But all
so
that
I'm
to
not
say,
sure. But yeah, there's some big projects that are open source. Trillions of dollars worth of projects are open source. So
yeah, and all that to say, this was, in my opinion, this was eventually going to come to a head. There are too many. There are so many hands in WordPress that this was bound to happen. So personally, it's like I ain't surprised.
there are a lot of people who are calling for Matt Mullenweg to step down. It's like you can continue to run Automatic and do your stuff on the private company side, but they're saying that because of what you've done in the stance that you're taking, you're frightening the community so much. You need to just step down from WordPress. And I don't know that dude will ever do that. It's like this he's flat out said, I alone control this. And it's like when you have
Does he
somebody
have a
that's saying
board?
that.
Does WordPress have a board? Do they have
I would have to think the organization would have to. Right?
You know what? Those are words that came out of his mouth. He's saying that he controls it. So if he controls it, he controls it. We're going to have to see now if I guess maybe if the developer community reaction is so adverse that
which is what it needs to happen.
So you can keep it, but what the community has decided to do is that they're going to fork WordPress, and all of those WordPress developers are now going to go over and work on this other thing that looks and smells and feels exactly like WordPress, but it's called something else while your company dies. Maybe that is what ultimately has to happen. But just one more point on this. So many people felt, a certain type of way about this, that he runs the company Automatic. I want to say, quite a few, 129, 159. I don't know the exact number, but quite a few of his, let's see, do I have the number here? I don't have the number, but it is quite a few of Automatic's actual employees decided to leave the company over this. Hundreds of them. And they took it was a really nice severance, but basically said, like, if you're not down with the way I'm running things, you can roll, instead of being here working for a company where you disagree with the person who controls all of this. So 80% of the people that decided to take that severance, and it was pretty nice. It was a sizable severance package. 80% of them worked directly with the WordPress, development team. So it's like his own people's not really feeling him on this. So we will see this. We could have talked about this back in September. We didn't, because I thought it was going to be one of those things that was going to be, oh, my bad, I probably should have said that, and then it kind of goes away, and it's like, no, he keeps doubling down every time. Every time something else comes, he just like, no, I'm going. He is deep in the paint on this one, and it feels like he wants this to go to court and have a judge actually rule on it, or so we will see. Folks, this is the end of the show, but before we get done, Tech Life Steph, I believe you have put a spotlight in a rundown. So could you tell us about David Blackwell?
Sure. David Harold Blackwell was a professor emeritus of mathematics and statistics at the University of California in Berkeley. David was born at home in Centralia, Illinois on April 24th, 1919. He attended Centralia Public Schools, having learned to read on his own before entering. He completed elementary school in 6 years instead of the usual 8. He described his high school education as fabulous. While in high school, he had his first publication, a solution of a problem that appeared in a mathematics magazine. David's higher education was all at the University of Illinois Champaign. He entered that university in 1935, age 16. He obtained his bachelor's degree in 3 years, earned his master's degree in 1939, and a PhD in 1941. David was the 7th African American to earn a PhD in mathematics in the United States and the first at the University of Illinois. In 1941, David was awarded a Rosenwald Fellowship at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton. Fine Hall was then the Princeton Mathematics Building, and because of segregation, David was not allowed to enter it. David next spent the summer in the summer of 1942 as assistant statistician at the Office of Price Administration in Washington, D.C. He accepted a position of instructor at Southern University in Baton Rouge in 1942. The following year, he moved on to an instructorship at Clark College in Atlanta. And finally, in 1944, David obtained a regular appointment in the Department of Mathematics at Howard University. He remained there until 1954, at which time he had become a professor and department chair and published the paper that later became the famous Rao-Blackwell theorem. The concept of Rao-Blackwellization is employed to improve predictions of artificial neural networks by physical information. Blackwell's pioneering work in Bayesian statistics has advanced the field of AI by enabling researchers to develop more robust and adaptive algorithms that can learn from data and make intelligent decisions in uncertain environments. In 1955, David was appointed a professor of statistics at Berkeley. At that time, he had published some 20 papers appearing in the major mathematics and statistics journals. He also collaborated with Meyer A. Gershik on a book, Theory of Games and Statistical Decisions. David's Berkeley years were full. He became department chair in 1957. Blackwell's broad interest, including pure as well as applied mathematics, led to his additional appointment at Berkeley in 1973 as a professor of mathematics and the first Black tenured professor in the UC system. In 1969, he wrote one of the first Bayesian textbooks, Basic Statistics. The impact of Blackwell's research contributions is made clear by the number of lectures and concepts named after him. These include the Mathematical Association of America, National Association of Mathematics, David Blackwell Lecture, the Blackwell Tapia Award, Blackwell Determincy, Blackwell Games, Blackwell's Renewal Theorem, Blackwell Spaces, the Rao-Blackwell Theorem, Blackwell Optimal Policies, Blackwell's Theorem for G sub delta winning sets, Blackwell's Approachability Theorem, Blackwell's Theory of Combination of Experiments, and the Blackwell Channel. He wrote some 84 research papers. Some 42 appeared in the journals of the Annals of Mathematical Statistics, Annals of Probability, and Annals of Statistics. And he further supervised 64 doctoral dissertations. Blackwell was the first African American inducted into the National Academy of Sciences. He received 13 honorary doctorates, once remarking that the two most important to him were from Howard University and the University of Illinois, as they knew him best. International doctorates came from the universities of Lesotho and Warwick, and he was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He received the R.A. Fisher Award and also the von Neumann Theory Prize of the Operations Research Society of America. He received the Berkeley Citation and gave the Wald and Reitz Lectures of the Institute of Mathematical Statistics. He was posthumously awarded the National Medal of Science in 2012. Blackwell is survived by 4 of his 8 children. He was preceded in death by his wife, Ann Madison Blackwell, who died in 2006 after 62 years of marriage. I mean, the brother's just super, super smart. I just had to, I saw this like a graphic popped up in my Instagram feed for some reason. I think because of his connection to AI, and I was like, oh, this is about to be a spotlight for real, for real.
I'm imagining when he was 3 or 4 and he's talking to his mom. He's like, his mama says, baby, what you want to be when you grow up? It's like, I want to win all the mathematics.
all
awards.
the
I want to
math.
win all of them.
I'm doing all the math.
I want
all
the
math.
math. I want to do it. So this was a good one, and it's like folks ask. This question was asked of me probably within the last month. You guys do spotlights, but you only focus on African Americans. It's like you haven't listened to the show very much, have you? And it's
Clearly.
not just black folks, is what I should say, because some of them are not African Americans. Some of them are from other places that we've done it on. But folks who have a lot of melanin in their skin tone and look like us. And it's important because you don't necessarily hear these stories. I have heard about some of these awards. I never knew that this was a black man. Today, I found out.
Today I learned. Yeah.
David Harold Blackwell was actually a black man. Now, it was one of the things where I probably wasn't reading deeply into it, and you saw this when it kept saying black, that it was talking about his last name and not him as a being. But the reason we do this is because it's like our folks. He is now an ancestor. He's been passed away for 14 years, but we've done a lot in science and technology, and it needs to be recognized, and that's why we do.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's so crazy. I wonder if he, had any inkling of where his research would go and what it would power, now in 2024 with AI and everything, his research and his theorems at the foundation of the algorithms that power AI. I just wonder if he thought, that future forward to say maybe one day, my stuff is going to be, it would just be interesting to know if he ever imagined this is where his research would end up.
I have known people who have, been at the top of academia, who have done some amazing things. And one of the things that many of them is they're visionaries. So it's like, when we actually create a computer that can do this is where we're going to be. So they don't necessarily know exactly what it's going to look like, but they can kind of foresee it, that eventually this thing is going to happen. I don't know that about David Harold Blackwell, but I wouldn't be shocked by it if back in the 40s and 50s he was thinking that eventually computers will be able to do this, and when they can, here's where they will go. I would not be shocked at all if that was something. But I'm being facetious when I say this, but at some point, him and his mama had a conversation. He's like, baby, what you want to be when you grow up? He's like the mathematician that knows all the math.
When he taught himself to read before he got to school.
It didn't say his folks helped him learn how to read. He said he taught himself how to read. That's impressive.
Crazy. Yo, brother was super smart.
So folks, once again, if you like the kind of tech that we're bringing to you on the Tech John, you like the conversations that we're having, you can help us bring the tech to you the way that we bring it to you by becoming a patron of the show. So if you would like to support the Tech John, head over to thetechjohn.com/Patreon. Once again, there's multiple tiers over there, any one of which gets you access to our live stream and after party, which we're about to start in about 25, 30 seconds. With that being said, Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph or check out my website at stephaniehumphrey.com and sign up for the newsletter.
You can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
So, folks, once again, like I said, we are on all the things, and we will be back in a week's time. So come holler at us however you holler. Peace.
Peace.